So I bought a movement watch for £1. In this video, I'll be covering what I actually received. Alright, so I decided that I wanted to run a little bit of an experiment. I was scrolling through some different watches on Amazon and I saw something that caught my eye. A nice looking minimalist watch that bore a striking resemblance to a very popular watch brand. A popular watch brand that I featured before on this channel. If you've seen my movement watch review, you'll know my thoughts on this brand. Well, this video isn't going to be one where I rip apart movement watches, but what struck me was that this item was £1, but the pictures look just like, an £85, £100 movement watch. Essentially, it was as close as you can get to one of those the watch is free, just pay for shipping watches. The shipping was like £2.99 or £3.99, so I decided to give it a try and to see what I actually received and how this £1 watch compares to the typical movement watches that I've already tried before. And here is what I received. Oh no, that's the wrong one. And here is what I received. I'll be having a look at the differences and the similarities between the two watches in terms of the specs and the build quality for the price. If you want to get hold of one of these £1 watches, I'll leave a link in the description below. But let's take a look at these beasts side by side. I picked a watch here that was as similar as possible to the one that I received from Movement. Unfortunately, design-wise, they're not super similar. Online, the specifications for the £1 watch were completely out. It claimed that it was a 40mm watch, so I thought it'd be good to compare it to the 40mm watch I already had from Movement. But as it turns out, this is basically the most similar one you can get to the classic series, the 45mm series from Movement. That's how much the diameter actually is. But regardless, let's plow on. First things first, both watches advertise themselves as luxury. I honestly don't know how a £1 watch can ever be described as luxury. But then again, movement watches have had my say before on how their watches actually stack up, so maybe it's a draw in this round. Both watches lie. Let's look first at the straps on the watches. Even though I really dislike the straps on movement watches and I think they're poor quality, they are still better than the £1 watch. The movement watch straps are made out of what is really low quality genuine leather. As I've covered in videos before, even different types of genuine leather straps, there's a huge difference in quality even between them. This one, for instance, has just got really oily and grubby really quickly through regular use. But it's still better than the faux leather used in the £1 watch. In all truth, the bit that sits outward from your wrist when this thing is on, it feels not bad at all. But it's the inside where the problems really occur. Because it's polyurethane, it just folds and wrinkles and then digs into your wrist. So I don't like the strap on this one, but I don't like the strap on this one even more. You're choosing between either a poor quality strap or a really poor quality strap. And when you consider the price difference between the two items, this particular one retails for £85, whereas this one, including the shipping, is £4. It's a difficult decision. Which one do you think is actually better value for money? The one thing I will say with the movement watches is at least they come with removable straps. So if you hate the straps, at least you can change them out for something better. Whereas the super cheap watch, unfortunately, the straps seem to be bonded on. The buckles on the straps, however, feel exactly the same. Obviously, because this is a bigger watch and the straps are wider, the buckle is a little bit bigger. But in terms of the quality, the movement one's got the logo embossed in, but that's the only real difference in quality here. They feel and perform exactly the same. Another difference to mention is the case of the watch. The super cheap watch has an alloy case, whereas the movement watch apparently has a stainless steel case. At least the back is stainless steel. Whether the rest of it is, in all truth, because it feels so weak, I'm not 100% sure. But either way, the movement watch, you can just about feel that it is a better quality watch. The metal used in the £1 watch, as you can imagine, certainly isn't of the same base level of quality. But really, they're so comparable, it's kind of scary. Considering that this is, I think it's about 21 times less than the cost of this, it's not miles away. And actually, that's where some of the similarities start. Firstly, both of these items have a quartz movement. It could be maybe a slightly different type of quartz movement, but in all truth, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same. Either way, they're both evidently using really cheap movements. I don't know from this one because it's not listed on the specs, but I imagine it's going to be something pretty similar. Also, the glass on the front Movement use the very lowest grade of glass possible in most of their watches, and this is evident with this one because it feels like plastic. The 1 watch, again, because the specs are a bit of a mess, I can't be sure, but I would guess it's either the same, lowest possible quality glass, or most likely plastic. In terms of the price difference, again though, there's barely anything between them. And now we focus on one of the key selling points for lots of these minimal watch companies, and that is how good the watches look. The minimalist face of the watch. And I won't be directly comparing these two because they are slightly different styles, but I'll judge the quality of this watch and the design of the regular classic movement watch on their website. And to put it bluntly, the faces are exactly the same. The style of the face and the hands is identical. And what made me laugh with the face of the 99p watch is there's even a gap at the top where a logo could easily be stuck. And what do you know, in the movement watches that they use, this is exactly where the movement logo goes. I wouldn't be surprised if these parts were identical. And in terms of the overall look of this watch when it's on, compared to the classic watch, it looks almost identical. Obviously you don't have the movement logo, but apart from that, the strap is extremely similar. The rest of the face of the watch is exactly the same too. The watch overall, compared to some of the other movement watches that I've got before, it does look slightly less quality. But does it look, 80 plus pounds difference? Absolutely not. And one thing I also want to mention is that this 1 watch actually looks a lot more like the original picture or rendering on the listing than the movement watches look compared to the ones on their website. You receive a watch that looks exactly how you'd expect. Okay, specs wise, I received 45mm when in their incorrect description they call it 40mm, but compared to the actual picture itself, very, very, very similar. Whereas some of the movement watches, I've seen, pictures on their website of watches that I've got in reality, and they look so much better in the renderings. All companies, do this to an extent, but almost at times it's like it's a different watch. So what conclusions can we make from this analysis? Did I actually get a movement watch for 1 pence? Overall, no, I didn't. It has to be said, despite the flaws that I pointed out before, the movement watches are better quality than this 1 pence watch. But for the huge chasm of price difference between the two items, that's the least of what you'd expect. This watch was 1 pence plus a couple of quid for delivery, whereas movement watches cost anywhere between about £70 and about £120. 20 times or so the difference in price. So no, movement watches aren't the same as 1 pence watches, but they certainly aren't 20 times the watch. The fact that this thing is even comparable for that price difference says it all. These are both, directly imported from China. I imagine you could actually get one that was the same quality as this for probably between about £8 and 20 UK pounds. Evidently, it wouldn't have the movement logo, so you couldn't join the movement, but so be it. I'll leave links in the description below to both of these watches, but also some really good alternatives. Watches that prove to be really good value, where you get decent quality for a relatively good price. And I'll also have a look to see if I can find a watch that proves to be more similar to the movement watches for as cheap as possible. Hopefully you found this comparison video insightful and interesting. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you press the like button, and if you want to see more tips videos on what to wear and how to style your hair, make sure you press subscribe too, so that you stay up to date with my new ones, and I'll see you on the next one.